What's up? Welcome in. Hoge and Jahns with you post-Christmas. Hopefully everyone enjoyed their Christmas with their families. Nice little Christmas Eve victory for the Bears. Adam Jahns, and a day to digest everything before we jump into what it all means.
Are you talking about the Bears or all the food I ate and the cookies
Yeah.
and the sweets and the
Or both.
yeah. That digestion takes a couple days. I'm not a young 21-year-old who recovers quickly anymore. I'm a
I don't
something sports writer.
I don't know what it's like in your family. In mine, Christmas Eve is almost a bigger deal than Christmas Day, especially when it comes to the food. Like usually, like we have a tradition of shrimp and crab, and we go all out with the seafood on Christmas Eve. And to be honest, I felt like I missed most of it because the Bears game, and we're doing CHGO on Sunday, and by the time I got back in there, like, dude, where'd all the crab go? I got like a couple legs there laying.
Not enough leftovers?
Yeah, no. Well, that stuff goes fast in this house. I gotta say.
There's always one like food that clears out where there's never enough for like the next morning. Like same thing applies to Thanksgiving. Like there's always enough turkey and stuffing, right? But other side dishes, like sometimes your favorites, there's never enough for the second helping that you want the next day.
I did do some digging around though last night, and I accidentally found a secret stash of crab legs.
Oh, someone hid them.
And I was like, well, wait a minute here. So I don't know. We might need an investigation to figure all this out.
Or you're telling yourself, Merry effing Christmas, Adam Hoge.
Yeah. But no, it's been a good couple days, and of course, we apologize for not having a post game episode Sunday, but I think people were enjoying the game and spending time with their families anyway. So we're gonna sort of do a mixed Tuesday episode for you. We'll react to everything from Sunday and then spin the conversation forward as we usually do. We got some voicemails, a little lighter than usual because of the holiday, and that's all good. But plenty of conversation. I know there's been a lot of reaction the last couple of days to Justin Fields' game. How about the Patriots winning? That helped the Bears with the number one pick situation as well. And there's Caleb Williams' tweet that's gone viral for many reasons with the Bears. And it's not even one of his tweets. It's just a like of a tweet. Gotta love that.
That's 2023 sports coverage for you.
So make sure you're following us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns. You can read Johnsy on The Athletic, theathletic.com/Hoge Jahns. He's got a new column up today on Justin Fields and Ryan Poles. And I brought in some of the conversation from Randy Mueller from last week's episode. We'll discuss some of that as well. And you can also find us at Hoge Jahns and at HogeandJahns.com as well to get all your merch. And that's all there for you as always. All right. We're going to play a voicemails a little bit earlier on in this show. Before we get to that, though, just initial reaction from Sunday's game. Bears get a win. They're now 6-9 on the season. Nice. And just what was your biggest takeaway?
Biggest takeaway is I think the defense found a way to close the door. I do think the defensive progress is more than tangible. It's beyond real at this point. They're consistent, and Kyler Murray can be good in 2-minute situations, and the Bears defense, at least in this game, it was better. I think that's real for the Bears, and it's a bad team, but it's still good to be bad teams. I think you want a little bit more from Justin Fields, but the running game was back. The offensive line had a great game against an inferior opponent, so there's things to feel good about for sure.
Yeah. I think it was good that they closed the door. I didn't necessarily like that they only managed 2 field goals in the second half. That seemed like a game that early on could have been a big blowout, and then all of a sudden, fourth quarter interception, and it's a 1-possession game just like that. Look, a win's a win. You feel good about it. You take them in the NFL, no question about it. But at the same time, I'm like, man, if they're not playing the Cardinals, like, does that become yet another game they don't finish?
Yeah,
but they did finish it, so good for them. They did it.
I did have that vibe of here we go again.
Yeah.
Like those 3 comeback wins for who was it? The Broncos, the Lions, and the why am I forgetting the Browns?
Yeah.
Awful game. It did have that vibe to it. Even my sons who were watching that game had they're like, oh no, it's going to happen again. And I think the defense again against an inferior opponent, but you play who you play. Well, they shut the door this time, and I think that's a positive. You could take that positive and build on that.
Yeah, 100%. Curious how the voicemails sound. I know we got fewer than usual just because of it being Christmas, but we'll see what the positivity was like, and maybe some negativity at the end. I don't know.
Let's see who had too much eggnog.
Yeah, that too. Probably Bob Dabrowski, but just guessing. Let's get to your voicemails here from Sunday's win over the Cardinals.
Hello?
Do you know who this is?
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody!
The Hoge Jahns voicemail. The Hoge Jahns voicemail line.
Believe it or not, George isn't at home. Please leave a message at the beep.
Got any questions or comments about the Bears? Give the guys a call before, after, or even during the game.
Go Bears!
After last week's loss to the Browns, true Bears fans are rooting for losses from here on out. Go Cardinals. Gannon after the game is going to be saying the Bears are who we thought they were, but we didn't leave them off the hook. Let's go. Bear down. Go Cardinals. Doesn't make sense. Bear down.
21-7. Bears just punted, and I'm getting a real bad feeling.
I don't know what it is, but Fields' body language on the field today just looks like he's fully given up. I mean, after the Patrick Phantom hold that took off his 32-yard scramble, after each missed pass, he just, eyes to the sky. It ain't looking good, lad.
I just saw the Bears defense get just absolutely schooled by a dude named Greg Dortch on third down. I thought Flus was supposed to be a great defensive mind. I think we can all say, no one on this team knows how to call plays. Merry Christmas, I guess. Bye.
Guys, I'm just trying to have a Merry Christmas Eve with my family. Are the Bears really going to this up?
Hoge Jahns, Bears win, and I'm sad. All signs are pointing in Luke Getsy and Matt Eberflus and Justin Fields, all three being booted from Chicago. Maybe Eberflus hangs on because of his defense, but still it's frustrating as a fan of Justin. I wanted it to work out so bad, but I wanted to also preemptively thank you guys for all the hard work this year, and hope you guys have a happy holidays, and maybe 2024 will be our year. Bear down.
Hey, Bears fans, B-Man here. All I wanted for Christmas is a Bears win, and that's what I got. Bear down!
Did it for B-Man. I love it. I love it.
Should we check in on Bob?
Yeah, Bob. Well, you know what? I think it was the eggnog. He didn't even call in. He was just passed out on his couch.
Yeah.
Man.
He's that uncle.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's even an uncle, but he might be that guy in the family.
Uncle Bob.
Uncle Bob.
Uncle Bob. By the way, I might be able to actually do this today because maybe not.
Nope.
I'm actually using my laptop. No, it didn't work. That's disappointing. I have to figure that out. All right. So you could tell there was some nervousness in there late. So we weren't the only ones sort of feeling like that. A couple angles I want to bring up. I was a little, if you haven't noticed, the Bears fan base is polarizing right now on a number of different topics. And it seemed like even post-game Sunday when we did our CHGO show, there was a lot of fans feeling kind of how I was feeling, which was like, oh, wait a minute, that got dicey in the second half. And, Fields was good, but he still, that fourth quarter interception, you got to wonder how much that just feels like it weighs more in the evaluation. And then there was a number of other fans, it might even been the majority, that were just almost upset that how dared you even bring up some of the bad things that happened in the second half? That was a good win. They got it. They got off to a good start. And I was surprised a little bit by that pushback. I mean, again, every fan's allowed to watch the game and feel the way they want to feel. Like there's no problem with that. But the blowback we got surprised me a little bit, Johns.
Is it more to do with the quarterback and his struggles, or is it more to do with with what exactly? Like Torch. I mean, if you're writing for like the Cardinals, like
Dortch the Torch. By the way, Greg Dortch, PHNX's own Greg Dortch. He's their Cole Kmet in Arizona. And Patrick Surtain in Denver. Like he's part of the All City family. So, good for him.
Well, if they didn't use Torch the Bears for at least one sentence in their review of that game, well, like, can I say something? Like when I heard that's not a Matt Eberflus. How about Tyreek Stevenson and Eddie Jackson make the tackle in open field, by the way? Like in that case, that is squarely on the player.
Also in the NFL, like you're not gonna pitch a perfect game defensively. There's gonna be some big play at some point.
As much as Matt Eberflus would love to get on that field and make a tackle himself, because he does. You absolutely know he does. He can't do that. Like it's not happening. Like Tyreek Stevenson, rookie cornerback, has to make the tackle there. Same with Eddie Jackson, veteran safety. I guess my question for you, like, it's got to be the Justin Field conversation, right? Because, like, if you just look at the stats, and I think people are tired of hearing the stats, but, like, going into that game, the Cardinals were averaging, we're opposing quarterbacks playing the Cardinals. We're allowing an average of a 100.3.8 passer rating. Second worst mark in the league. Justin Fields was 30 points below that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, like you should expect better, right? You want to expect better. I want to expect better of a quarterback, right?
Look, you had a column up today about whether, we're all over complicating this evaluation. And I'll let you get into some of that, since you wrote it. But where I'm at, and I know I've said this a couple times now, I just want to reemphasize it because sometimes I get like, here's my official stance on Justin Fields. And I actually think I've been very consistent about this. I think we know exactly who he is and what he is. I actually think he is more consistent than people give him credit for. Some of that being good and some of that being bad. Like almost every game, he is going to be the one the defenses are worried about the most. He's going to beat you with his legs. He's going to make one or two incredible plays that almost every other quarterback in the league couldn't do. He's going to be late on 3 to 5 throws. Maybe a couple of them still get completed. And then another 2 get batted away. Like the first third down throw to Cole Kmet in that game was a late throw. And it got knocked away and the Bears punted. And it should have been a first down. The fourth quarter interceptions are a thing. You cannot deny that. He has 6 of them now this season. It's tied most in the league.
Yes, most in the league.
Okay, so that's like a thing. It's on his resume. And you're going to get those fourth quarter mistakes. And unfortunately, when you look at the numbers, not just this year, but over the course of his career, the fourth quarter is his worst quarter. So, but I actually think all those things I said, all the good, all the bad there, is pretty much consistent. Like, that's what he is. And by the way, I think that's good enough to keep him around if, when you put on the ledger the Caleb Williams, Drake May situation versus the Justin Fields situation, if a team offers you enough for that first pick, they blow you out of the water with enough trade capital, draft assets, whatever. Like I saw Braggs throw this out there like the other day, and it seems crazy at first, but like if the Raiders give you 3 first round picks and Max Crosby, sounds insane. But if some team's willing to do that for Caleb Williams, everything I just said about Justin Fields, that might be good enough to surround him with a perfect roster and be able to win with. But on the other hand, I do not fault the general manager if he looks at everything I just said and he knows the evaluation better than we do, and he also knows the valuation of Caleb Williams and Drake May better than we do, and he decides that isn't enough from your quarterback position, and we're going to move on. Like I honestly can see it both ways. And that's part of why this is so polarizing. I get it. And everyone wants to get so mad every time they hear someone say something negative about Justin. But it's like, dude, this is who he is. He's very good. He's very special. And he also does a lot of things that drive you crazy at the same time. And in my opinion, he's a good enough quarterback to move forward with. But he still might not be the best option. If Ryan Poles makes that decision, I'm not going to criticize it.
I guess my question is good enough for how long? And another question is, like, when I first saw Braggs's trade proposal from the Raiders, sure, there's some level of insanity there, but I think there is background to it because you saw, well, the 49ers did it to trade up Trey Lance of all quarterbacks, and Caleb Williams is supposed to be better than that.
And that wasn't even for the number one pick. That was just to become second or three. Yeah. So there's some logic there, actually, that some team could get desperate enough if they really love Caleb Williams so here's my follow-up to you on that.
Oh, go ahead. Because I had a follow-up to that. Like, my follow-up would be like, oh my gosh, they're offering this much. What am I missing on Williams that they're seeing?
Yeah. Well, that's fair.
What am I missing on Drake May that they're seeing? Go back to work, guys. Go do some more research. What do they know that we don't?
So do you think Ryan Poles' mind is made up already? Or do you think that, like last year, there's more evaluation that needs to be done, and he's going to weigh trade offers both for Justin Fields and the number one pick before he decides? Or do you think this is already, no, I know what direction I'm going in?
This is what I think. I don't think his roster last year, meaning going into this year, was ready for a rookie quarterback. I think that he'll think that his roster for 2024 will be more ready for a rookie quarterback than it was this year. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
He'll have a receiver in DJ Moore. He'll have a better offensive line. He'll have a defense, maybe a top 10 defense with an added pass rusher, right? Because you know that's going to be an offseason priority. That will help the transition from Justin Fields to a younger quarterback. So I don't know if his mind is fully made up, but I think in terms of roster construction, next year's roster for the quarterback, whether that's Justin Fields or a rookie, will be better. And I just think, like, I have this in my column, like I call it the Moneyball reality. The Moneyball reality is that Justin Fields' on-field production, especially as a passer, will not be that tough to reproduce. It just won't be because it's not that good. I'll give you the numbers in a minute. It's just not that good. That's the hard reality. Now, the running, that's special. That'll be tough to reproduce. The hard passing, you can find a quarterback that can reproduce that. You can. It could be even, I'll just say you just can, like in terms of like a veteran quarterback. Like you could reproduce the passing numbers. And then you get a rookie quarterback on a contract. Like, I don't think Justin Fields' numbers are good enough where he could pick up the 2025 fifth-year option. You just can't. Like, can he be your starter in 2024? Sure. But you can't tell me, like, after this season that his play warrants what that 2025 fifth-year option amounts to. Like, his rankings amongst like the quarterbacks in the league don't equate to that to me. I mean, am I wrong in saying that?
No, I don't think you are. Which I think kind of brings us to, I think, part of your point with your column. Are we making this too complicated because when I just hear
I'm doing it right now.
No, I know, but you
I
are,
know, but
you're
I'm
not.
overcomplicating it right now.
You're not, because I think what you're getting at is like, if you are in a spot after 3 years that you don't feel like you can pick up the 5th-year option, and oh, by the way, you might have the number 1 pick. You probably will have the number 1 pick with Caleb Williams staring you right there. Like, those are the moments when I put it in that type of perspective, where as much as it sucks and as much as people don't want to hear this, that love Justin Fields, and there's many reasons to love Justin Fields, so don't get me wrong, that just seems like an easy decision to me. If you don't feel like he's good enough to pick up the 5th-year option and you have Caleb Williams right there staring at you on a rookie contract starting over, and you might disagree with this, and when I say you, I'm talking about our listeners. You might be the biggest Justin Fields fan in the world, and you just might disagree with that. That's fine. But part of our job here is to have a feel for what the talent evaluators and the decision makers feel, or how they look at this. And I just find it hard to believe that a general manager is going to look at how we just laid that out right now and not move on this offseason. That's just how I feel about it right now.
Yeah.
But again, please do not get me wrong. I still feel like if you kept Justin, you traded the number 1 pick, you'd still have a successful team.
I guess the layer to that question is, if you're building around Justin Fields, aren't you building around his potential replacement? Right? And I get that's layered because you're passing on Marvin Harrison Jr. So instead of taking Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe you take the second best receiver in this loaded draft class. Like, why can't you trade your second first overall pick for more draft capital? You know what I'm saying? Maybe someone wants to move up for J.J. McCarthy at number 10.
Right.
Maybe that's when Jaden Daniels goes at number 10. Like, teams move up for quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes was the 10th overall was number 10 overall pick. Like, it happens.
Well, and that's also, I think you got to factor this situation into why now might be the time to strike on a quarterback again. Because not only are you not in a spot where you have to be desperate enough to trade up for a quarterback, but you can take that quarterback and still have another top 10 pick. Yeah. Like, it's not even like you're I think a lot of times it's like when you're desperate for a quarterback, even if you don't have to trade up for one, it's like, oh, we got to use our first round pick on a quarterback when we have all these other needs. Like, most teams drafting a quarterback have a lot of other needs. And the Bears are in this luxury position where they can take that quarterback and still draft another player in the top 10.
Yes. Or trade back.
Or trade back for more cap, which might be what they do, because remember, they don't have a second round pick.
So the numbers, you want them now? Like, this is what I mean about, like, I think that you could reproduce the passing numbers. I don't think it's going to be that difficult, all right? So completion percentage right now with 2 games left. Justin Fields, you know where he ranks?
Is this just this season?
Just this season.
Okay. I don't.
27th.
In completion percentage. Okay.
All right. Passing yards per game. 23rd. Passer rating. 21st. QBR. 22nd. Interception rate. 27th. Sack rate. Let me make sure I got this right. Sack rate. 30th. Adjusted net yards per attempt, which before, like, EPA took off, like, it's a long-standing metric for valuing quality quarterback play, right? If you go through history, the quarterbacks with the best adjusted net yards per pass attempt are, like, the greatest of all time, okay? This season, Justin Fields ranks 25th. And like his sack rate, interception rate, and his adjusted net yards attempt, like, they've all improved for him. But it's still not amongst the best at his position. That is a fair way to put it. Individual improvement, but still not amongst the best in his position as a passer. And I get you have to factor in the running. I get it. But quarterbacks are passers first.
And you have to wonder how long the running is sustainable. Which brings me to another thing I want to talk about from Sunday's game. Those are all really good numbers, by the way. Kind of, again, puts things into perspective. What did you think about the way that Justin was? It just seemed like he was more willing to slide earlier.
The
Conscious about taking hits.
I'm not fully sure what you said about that 39-yarder he had before his interception, but I thought he could have scored. When he looked back at the would-be tacklers, maybe he was a bit surprised by himself because he ran through two guys, two arm tackles. And I'm thinking to myself, watching it on my TV right there, that he could score. And then he slid.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. I do think there's value, even if you're if the Bears are a playoff team, you should still slide.
Yeah.
Protect yourself a bit. But do I think he could have scored? Yes.
I think last year's version of Justin Fields tries to. And maybe that's part of his evolution as a quarterback. I'm not criticizing him at all for not trying to score there. In fact, I said this on Sunday's show too, if you're going to move forward with Justin Fields as your quarterback, you need him to slide like that. You need him to be fully conscious like he was Sunday about taking hits or not taking hits. So I don't have a problem with it at all. But I did find it interesting because I think this is something that has sort of changed through the course of this season compared to last year. Is we have seen fewer, there's plenty of explosives still, but those big, crazy, on any given moment, he can break off a 65-yard touchdown run. There's been less of that. Think about that Eagles run last year where he barely stepped out of bounds. And Jonathan Gannon, who was the Eagles DC last year, actually referenced that play this week when he was preparing for him, or last week, I should say. And he's so again, I just find it interesting as a talking point. I think it's something that is part of Justin's evolution right now. And like I said, if you're going to move forward with him as your quarterback, you need him to be conscientious in those situations about not taking a hit. But he ended up throwing an interception right after that. He didn't score, and that would have been the dagger in the game. Now, you won anyway. I just found it interesting.
The scrambles are down this year. Hard numbers. This is from Pro Football Reference. Scrambles in 2021, 46. Scrambles in 2022, 69. Nice. Scrambles in 2023, 37.
Interesting.
Now, obviously, Fields has 2 more games to play. He played 15 games last year, but that's a 32 scramble difference there, right?
I also think it would be fair to say, too, that the offensive line's been better. But that's what's interesting about his sack rate still being as bad as it is, right? I don't think his offensive line's perfect by any means. I do think it's been better.
I do think it's in need of I think one of the biggest conversations the Bears will have is whether or not Braxton Jones is the future at left tackle, or you're going to take one of those studs
Yeah.
top 10. That's another layered conversation because you need other help. You need a new center. So I do think the offensive line is there's going to be investment there. You get Tevin Jenkins and Nate Davis and Tevin Jenkins, health is always a concern. And you have Darnell Wright. So I think there's potential investment coming there. But yes, to your point, the scrambles are down.
You know what I think could be part of the Braxton Jones evaluation too, though, or projection going forward? Can you live with him if your quarterback gets rid of the ball faster?
Probably.
You know, because you just invested a top 10 pick at right tackle. And you found this, you know, for a 5th-round pick, Braxton Jones has been really good. And, you know, it's saving you money to have 2 young tackles like that instead of having to go out. Now, you could use top 10 draft capital again on a left tackle. You can go out and sign somebody for a ridiculous amount of money. Or can you live with the cheaper option on the blind side if you have a quarterback that happens to be really good at catch release, get the ball out?
Maybe.
I mean, that's how these guys look at this stuff.
Maybe. Again, layered, but to go back to my question, like, are we guilty of overcomplicating this? I think I am. I definitely think I am. Let me ask you this. I have this in my column as well. To use Poles' own phrasing about being like blown away by a quarterback prospect, I think we can apply that to the Justin Fields evaluation. Has Justin Fields blown away Ryan Poles and his scouting staff, Ian Cunningham? Has he done it? What's your answer? I know what my answer is. I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
When you list those passing numbers, no. Has he blown us all away with his rushing ability? 100? Yeah, obviously. But like you said earlier, like you gotta be a quarterback too. And when you put all those passing numbers and lay them out the way you did, Johns, I don't see how the answer to that question could be yes.
You know, you look at where Justin Fields, with all those rankings I just provided, and the players that he's around, the quarterbacks, Sam Howell, Kenny Pickett. I'll give you a few other names. Hold on. I just want to be accurate on this.
Yeah, we don't want to be quoted in any editorials here.
No, like Aiden O'Connell, you know, Zach Wilson, Will Levis, like he's better than all of them.
Yeah.
He is. But what makes this so different is that the Bears have the first pick. And how often do you have the first pick in back-to-back years? How often are you looking at a quarterback like Caleb Williams and passing on him?
Well, and I think that gets back to your question. Like, so you go back to last year when the standard was, can any of these quarterbacks in the draft blow Ryan Poles away to the point that he's going to give up on Justin Fields after just 2 seasons? But now you got to look at it again. Like, and now that you've had 3 seasons, and you're right, include Justin Fields in it. Which of these quarterbacks now in this equation blow you away the most? And you're right, it's almost reversed this year. Has Justin Fields blown you away enough to pass on Caleb Williams?
Like, do I think that Caleb Williams can walk into the NFL and deliver passing numbers that are at least similar to Justin Fields' current production? My honest answer is probably yes.
Probably better.
Probably, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And then, again, the Moneyball reality in this is that you get him on a rookie contract for 4 years instead of picking up a 5th-year option in 2025. Or if not picking up that option, using the franchise tag or having a Daniel Jones-like situation where you have to pay him. That's part of roster building as well. Now you get a rookie quarterback who could probably deliver decent passing numbers if we're just comparing it to Justin Fields. But now you get to use, instead of draft capital, because everyone's obsessed about draft capital, but now you have free agency capital. You know what I'm talking about? Now you could, sign your own guys, re-sign your own guys. Hello, Jalen Johnson. And you could go in free agency and be like, you know what? We really need a veteran center. There you go.
But that's why I brought up the Braxton Jones thing too, because it's another spot where it's like, do we have to spend money at this position, a premium position, or not?
Yeah.
And if a different quarterback can help that left tackle, they're almost killing 2 birds with 1 stone there. Now you're saving money at quarterback and left tackle to spend that money elsewhere. Well, speaking of Caleb Williams, Johns, there's a tweet that everyone's talking about. It's not even one of his tweets, but he liked a tweet, and because it's 2023, this is what Bears fans are all hyped up about and debating. But it is kind of interesting. So we are looking at a tweet from Spenny. Shout out to Spenny. On Christmas Eve, only one option for the Chicago Bears in the 2024 NFL Draft. It's not Caleb Williams. We want Justin Fields. The answer is Marvin Harrison Jr. And this person tagged the Bears, tagged Caleb,
Tagged everyone.
tagged Justin Fields, tagged Marvin Harrison Jr. And and Caleb liked it. He liked this tweet. So everyone's like, "Oh no, he doesn't want to play for the Bears." Johns, he's liking the idea of them passing on him.
This reminds. See, I interpret this completely different than
me too.
Than that. Like this is a guy in Caleb Williams who would like things like this to help motivate him. Not that he needs it, but we know some of the greatest ones are motivated by such things.
Yeah,
including like Michael Jordan. If you did not watch The Last Dance, like forget Aaron Rodgers, forget Tom Brady because they did it. I just think of Michael Jordan, who would like invent slights against himself within games to motivate him. Like that was all in The Last Dance, right? Like in books, this is all documented. The greatest basketball player of all time would do this. Like that's how I interpret this as. Like this is fine. Don't draft me and see how much you regret it. That's how I interpret this.
Well, and he does have a history of this. Some people pointing out some other past tweets that he's hit the like button on that have been like negative ones towards him. So it seems like he might, now we're really reading into this, but he might have a history here of liking things like slights just to motivate him. There's another tweet though that popped up here that he liked in the last 16 hours or so. This is a positive one. Shout out to Jimbo now. I've waited my whole life for a quarterback like Caleb Williams on the Chicago Bears. I spent Christmas making this. It's a highlight reel that he puts here, but I'm not paying for a blue check to post the full thing. And one true freshman not supposed to be playing in this game, by the way. And he tagged Caleb Williams, who then liked it. These are his highlights from the game I was talking about last week, where he came in Red River rivalry against Texas. They were losing 28-7. They were still losing by 18 going into the fourth quarter. And he brought them back, had an unbelievable game. He did not start the game. Spencer Rattler got benched in the middle of it. Caleb Williams came in. Unbelievable atmosphere, unbelievable pressure, and he delivered. In the highlights, this is what I was talking about last week. It's incredible. So I don't know why that,
So you did post that one of the clips from that game.
Yes.
And a couple weeks ago, you weren't blown away by his film. Are you changing your mind here?
So
are you digging deeper, Adam Hoge?
I am digging deeper. Like I said at the time, people got mad at me because I watched, his two worst games from the season, which again for the 1,000th
I was at Notre Dame.
You were at the Notre Dame game. I did not choose those two games because they were his worst. I asked, hey, what are the two, toughest defenses he faced that'll simulate NFL like talent? And that happened to be Utah and Notre Dame this year. And those were not his two best games. Also at the time, there was plenty of good in those games too. But to use that standard of blown away after watching those two tapes, I was not blown away. And I said, we're just beginning this evaluation. Check back with me once I watch more of these tapes. So I decided to go back to the beginning. And 2021, when he's on Oklahoma, let's do this in chronological order. Let's get this full picture. And it's going to take some time. Guys, I can't sit here and watch Caleb Williams all day, every day, when I still have to cover the Bears here. But, this Oklahoma game, this Oklahoma-Texas game, I should say, from 2021, 100% blown away. I mean, he comes in, first snap, runs for a 65-yard touchdown. Then at the end of the game, the throw I posted on Twitter last week was just insane 57-yard throw to the front pylon to Marvin Mims Jr. in crunch time on 3rd and 19 when they had to have it. I mean, these are the type of huge moments. So yes, especially given the circumstances was completely blown away. I've since also watched the Fresno State game from that year, and again, very good. I don't know if it rises to the level of blown away. The circumstances were a little bit different, but he was still definitely very good. And so I think probably more of the 2021 tapes I watch in 2022, I'm going to be more blown away than maybe his struggles that we've seen this year.
I think before we go, like one of the most important factors that's not discussed enough right now is that Ryan Poles is probably prepared for all this. That, remember the conversation before the season?
Mm-hmm.
The pivot, it's all part of the plan in a sense.
The pivot?
The pivot move.
Are you saying pivoting at quarterback?
Yes.
Yeah.
That if Justin Fields doesn't become the consistent quarterback that the Bears want him to be, improve considerably in some areas, then Ryan Poles built in a pivot to change quarterbacks, given that there was an outstanding class coming. And again, this was before the season. Caleb Williams and Drake May were discussed. It was praised as a great move, and I think the roller coaster ride itself has kind of made us forget that pivot move was even made, But the Bears have the first pick. The conversations are different.
Well, and that's the thing. Like that was with no guarantee that you were going to have the first pick at all. Like you might have had to bundle some picks to have access to Caleb Williams. So now that opportunity is in front of you, and we did want to bring that up here before we get out of here. The draft order now with that Patriots win on Sunday, that was a huge one because the Patriots were the team that was flirting with Carolina in terms of tying strength of schedule. So for them to add their fourth win of the season, they fall back. Essentially, Carolina / the Bears has a 2-game lead in the situation on getting the number one pick. Because, look, to simplify this as much as possible, they're going to have the tiebreaker over Arizona, who is the only team now with 3 wins, I should say. So if the Panthers lose another game with 2 games to go, if they lose one of the 2 games, the Bears are going to have the number one pick. And that's crazy.
Sorry, I got 2 little elves raiding a box of cookies next to me. I was a bit distracted.
No, that's all right. So,
what are you saying?
I was saying the Bears are going to have the first pick. All they need is basically Carolina to lose one more game.
And that's going to happen. See the Bears are number 8 there? Where do you think that finishes? Because they're going to beat the Falcons.
You think so?
Preview episode over for Thursday.
Falcons look pretty good on Sunday.
What about like 2 weeks ago? Looked pretty awful.
Yeah, I know.
I think they finish in the 8 to 11 range. I think 11 or 12 probably being the highest. Look at Green Bay's right there as well. Which, again, is a good range for some of these pass rushers, a good range for the second best receiver, and a good range for trading back a few spots if somebody wants to move up for Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll be in a similar spot as they were last year with that pick, after trading back. They were at 9. They traded back one more spot on draft night to 10. That's where they ended up getting Darnell Wright. You're going to have access to a very good player there. And you probably don't need to trade up. And, oh, by the way, you might get Caleb Williams with the first pick on top of it. Again, I think as much as this gets polarizing, and I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this episode that love Justin Fields that aren't going to love it. That's fine. Just, I do think it's important to keep perspective that we are in our 9th year doing this podcast. We're almost celebrating our 10-year anniversary. And this by far, in my opinion, is the best position the Bears have been in to get themselves in position for sustained long-term success. And remarkably, we should bring this into the conversation Thursday, we didn't really talk about that coaching situation at all in this episode. And that's still the decision that's got to be made first. What does this coaching staff look like before they bring in perhaps a new quarterback into the mix? Meanwhile, the playoff chances are basically gone, guys.
1%.
1%. They're 2 games back with 2 games to go and 4 teams in between. So absolute miracle would be needed even if they win their last 2 games. I think they're going to split these 2 games, Johns. The way the Falcons played on Sunday, I had a feeling, though, with Heineke playing, that it was actually going to be better for them. But, Week 18 is still the Packers, and they still haven't beaten the Packers since 2018.
Really? Has it been that long?
Yeah.
Man.
So I certainly don't think it's a guarantee here that they're going to go 2-0 to end the season or anything. But, all right. Good discussion today. You got any final thoughts?
The final thought I have is if the Bears do go 2-0 down the stretch here, Matt Eberflus is definitely coming back.
Okay. Well, let's save some of that more. Yeah, I want to talk about that. Like, I think the same question can be asked and answered in that conversation. Do you think that decision's already been made, or can these last 2 games affect that? And I think that that's something worth discussing more on Thursday when we come back and preview this game against the Falcons. Make sure you're following us on Twitter in the meantime, at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns, at Hoge Jahns, our show account on Twitter as well. You can get all of our merch at hogeandjahns.com. We will be back in a couple days. We'll hear what Flus has to say at Hallis Hall. And do a little bit more digging on this Falcons team. See if the Bears can get another win this week. Do you know they're 6-5 in their last 11?
Ooh.
Speaking of things that head coach really pointing at to keep his job. Now, the first 4 weeks of the season still did happen.
That is more wins than losses, Adam Hoge.
But you could sit there and say they are 6-5 with 3 of those 5 losses being games they should have won.
They've doubled their win total from last year.
Hooray. But to me, 7 wins was the floor for the season.
I believe it was the line was 6.5, right?
I thought it was higher. I thought they were
7.5?
7.5 or 8.5 even.
No, it definitely wasn't 8.5. No way.
At least 7.5. We'll have to double check that. All right. Well, enjoy the next couple days, everyone, and we'll be back on Thursday.
Merry Christmas.